Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a long overdue Q&A video. I feel like I haven't had a chance to just sit down and talk to the camera in a really long time because I was traveling, as you guys saw, and then I've just been really behind on pretty much everything in my life. I asked you guys for questions a few weeks ago on my Instagram stories, and I'm just now getting the chance to kind of sit down and talk everything through. I feel like I am very likely to like ramble and really go on tangents in this video, so if you want to pause and get a snack, grab a coffee, I feel like this is the time to do so. Jumping right in, the number one question I got was, am I moving? And yes, I'm officially moving at the end of November. I feel like I talked about this really quickly on my channel in the last like unfiltered video that I did, and then never really brought it up again just because of the way my videos were scheduled and traveling. But I ended up giving notice on this apartment a few days after that vlog was posted. I'm super excited for it. The unit just has a lot more natural light. It faces like out on the street, not in a courtyard, which was really important to me, and it's just a cooler building. It's definitely a smaller space, but I think I upgraded other things that I care about more than the physical square footage. I wish I could insert videos and photos that I took when I was there, but the current resident was still there, so obviously I don't want to post her stuff like all over the internet, and then the actual listing photos would be super easy to reverse search, so not going to include those, but I am planning on vlogging the entire process. I really enjoyed doing that when I moved in here and in my last unit in this building, so super excited about that. Just really looking forward to having a change in my life, and I think it's going to be really good. Excited to kind of start fresh and style a new place, so super excited for that. Another question I got a lot was, why am I moving? Didn't you just move? And it kind of feels like I just moved, but it was 11 months ago. It'll be a full year in December because I signed a 12-month lease. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a little bit now, you probably know I've lived in the same building for the last 2.5 years. I switched units a year ago, but before that had previously been in another unit in the building, and have been here for 2.5 years, like I said. Have had the same job for 2.5 years, essentially the same daily routine every day, and just really need something new and fresh and some, not drastic change, because it's really not a drastic change, but just a change of scenery and something new to like look at every day. This apartment's been really great to me, and it's provided like a safe, comfortable place for me to live the last couple of years, and I think I've seen a lot of growth in myself, and just like a lot has happened in this apartment, and I think it's time to like kind of close that chapter and start the next chapter of my life. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. I also think the timing of moving into this unit specifically was not great. I moved in last December, as you guys saw. It was kind of like peak COVID. I wasn't really going into the office as much as I am now, living alone. Like, I face a courtyard, it was daylight savings, it was just dark and very lonely in here, honestly. And I was really, really limiting who I saw for COVID purposes, as I think most of us were. And it was just tough, like being here by myself all the time. I really do like living alone, but I like living alone when I'm able to see my friends and go to work and, you know, go outside and go to the grocery store comfortably. Like all of those everyday things that we kind of took for granted pre-pandemic, I really struggled with my first couple of months here, and then like a month after being here, the insurrection happened, and there was such a heavy military basis like between the green and the red zones. Like I was kind of on the cusp of the red zone, so I really couldn't do much for that like 3 weeks after. It was just obviously a disaster in DC, and again, there were some really, really great moments in this apartment with my friends and family and, you know, people I really care about, but there were also so many just like really lonely, isolating moments here, and I think I'm just ready to like close the chapter on that. Like I'm ready to like fully move on from this apartment, and not even this neighborhood, because I really do love where I live. I just need a change in my everyday routine, because not a ton else has changed in the last year, especially with like my job and everything like that. Like things are changing around me, but I feel like I've kind of stayed static, and I'm hoping that just having a new daily routine and, you know, walking to the metro and having new places to grab coffee nearby and dinner and stuff like that, just like a new neighborhood to walk around in will be really good for me. So that's kind of like the nutshell of why I want to move. I feel like a lot of you can understand that, hopefully. The next question I don't get super often, but every time I do, it really takes me back, honestly. And it's something along the lines of, you used to seem so much happier in your old videos, like you had so much more energy. And I mean, first of all, like that's really rude. Like, I don't know who raised the people that's asking these questions, but I feel like my mom would have never let that slide as a kid. Like if I ever said something along those lines, she would have like sat me down immediately and been like, this is rude, you can't say that. So first of all, like that's just a really fucking rude thing to say. I don't know, like that I can't get past to begin with. Second, comments like these like naturally send me in like a spiral down old videos and really analyzing my personality and like, am I happy and stuff like that. And like sometimes I think elements of myself were happier 2 or 3 years ago. But I think as a whole, certainly not. Like that first 6 months post-grad is so unbelievably hard because your entire identity up until that point most likely has been a student. Obviously everybody's on like a slightly different life track, but I would say the majority of people that I know, like up until you're roughly 22, unless you go to grad school, you are a student, and then you're thrown into the real world and you don't have that cushion of like scheduled breaks and the same structure you've been preparing for. Like everything in your life up until that point is such a structured stepping stone. Like elementary school prepares you for middle school preps you for high school preps you for college preps you for the real world, and then you get to the real world and it's really not what you were prepped for, probably. Like everybody, again, is gonna have different job positions and situations and living situations, but like I felt prepared, but not really. Like it's not a clear stepping stone like when you're getting used to having periods in between your classes, or like switching from a math class to an English class so that you understand that in high school. Like it's very different. If I look back at old videos, I feel like my tone was maybe a little bit different, but I think that that's just something that naturally changes with age. Like obviously my voice is gonna sound different now than it did 3 years ago. It's probably gonna sound different in another 3 years from now, not like drastically, but it probably will change as I get older. And I think that that's part of it, is that my tone is just a little bit deeper and maybe short now compared to what it used to be. I also think when I look back at my old videos, like I just spoke softer because I was scared. Like when I look at those videos, I just see someone who is so terrified of not doing her job right. Like someone who didn't really know who her friends were in this city. When you're fresh out of college, I feel like, at least for me, like I was just hanging out with anybody that I knew, and that was enough. Like it didn't matter if I liked them or they liked me or they were genuine friendships. Like just having people around was enough of a qualifier for me at that point. Like it was just such a drastic lifestyle change from living in a really small college town where everybody knew each other to moving to DC with none of my really good friends from college. I had some friends from high school who I ended up like reconnecting with, and those are my people now. And I like look at myself now and I feel like I'm so much more stable in my job and my relationships, and I know who my friends are confidently, and I know when my standards aren't being met really across the board, whether that's like professionally or personally. And I think I'm so much happier in that sense. Like, yes, there are elements of myself that I'm like, oh, I wish I had that like ignorant bliss that I had 2 years ago about XYZ, or I wish I hadn't gone through this yet. Like, yeah, I was happier in that sense, but I think as a whole, I'm on the trajectory upwards, and I think that that's just like the growing pains of post-grad. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm probably gonna get shit on for answering this so harshly, but I feel like it's just not fair to comment on someone's life like that when you're seeing a chopped up, edited portion of their day or their week. And honestly, you would probably see the same changes in yourself, more or less, if you had them documented that way as well. So I really don't think it's that I'm less happy. I think I'm just more coming into myself. Like I don't feel the need to like over emote or put on like, not a fake personality, but I just feel like I'm more comfortable in my true personality now than I was 3 years ago. And very likely in 3 years, I'm gonna look back at videos from this time period and feel the same way. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're going through the post-grad transition now, I feel like it's really tough and honestly takes a couple years to get settled. Like I would say a solid 2 years after post-grad was when or maybe like a year and a half in certain elements of my life, but that was when I really like found my footing and was able to kind of like define myself outside of an education system, if that makes sense. Moving on to a less aggressive question, I feel like I get a lot of questions about biggest advice for getting a job, resume tips, and I could make an entire video series about this. It's something that I am weirdly passionate about. I worked at our career center undergrad at Elon and then have really helped out pretty heavily with hiring multiple positions in my office now. So I do feel pretty qualified to speak on it. Obviously, every company and every sector of job is going to have different requirements, but for like general corporate America, one, when you're interviewing, tell the company what you can provide for them versus what they would be providing you. I feel like that's something that will really make you stand out, especially when it comes down to like 1 or 2 candidates, is really what you're going to bring to the table and how you can help further develop the company's mission or goals or sales, you know, whatever that is. Like really showing your value and your experience and what you're bringing to the table, I think is super important. Second, make sure you're asking questions and asking good questions. Don't ask things that can be found on Google, like where's your office located? One that I really like is among the lines of, what did the person or the previous person in this job do that you like feel could have done better? Or like, if I were hired, what could I do to improve upon this to like help you reach XYZ goals? Like something along those lines. I know a lot of people think that thank you notes are kind of going out of style. I strongly disagree with that. I think it's always good to follow up with a quick email after an interview, whether it was in person or virtually, and just say thank you for your time, express your interest for the position. I just never think that that's gonna be a bad thing, in my opinion. And then I think the last thing that I always come back to is, in my experience, more often than not, having a good personality and having good character traits is more important than skill set to some degree. Like obviously you're gonna need your basic qualifications for whatever job it is, but I think you can always train skills and kind of fine tune people's like best practices and stuff like that, but you can't necessarily fix a bad attitude or someone who's gonna show up and be rude or condescending. Like that's just, I would rather take time to train someone to do a job right than, my camera stopped recording, but hopefully you guys got the gist of what I was saying. If not, I'll go back and put text on the screen or something. But the next question I got was, what's a change you have noticed in yourself as you get older? I really like this question. Something random I've noticed about myself is that I hate texting now. I used to be all about it, especially in college with like relationships especially, and even friendships. Like I thought the sign of a good relationship was like constant communication, and I do not feel that way at all now. In fact, I definitely prefer the opposite. Like I really, like I like quick check-in text, I guess, but I would rather text to make plans in person than hold conversation. Or if it's a friend that lives out of town, like I would rather just call them or FaceTime them for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever that is, compared to like holding conversation over text. That to me feels like a chore now. I don't have my read receipts on anymore. Like I cannot believe how much I used to love texting, because I cannot stand it now. Oh, I don't know if this would be considered a change, but this was something that I was thinking about the other day. I've kind of changed my opinion on first impressions. I used to always think that first impressions were always right, and I don't think that that's true anymore. I think gut instincts are always right. Like if you meet someone or are around someone and you get that like nervous, anxious, unsafe feeling in your stomach, I think that that is very, very seldom wrong, and you should always follow that. Like that is your body, your subconscious, like taking care of you, and you should follow that. But I feel like there are multiple people in my life now that when I originally met them, I did not like them, or just like, even sometimes it's not disliking them per se, it's just you don't mesh super well with them off the bat. And then after like another time or two of just being in the same social setting, I've really grown to like people, or over time, or you know, just like random things like that. I feel like I've had multiple first impressions that I've been like, wow, I was really wrong on that. I really love and care about that person, or you know, whatever it is. I also think I've gotten more empathetic to like meeting someone for the first time and leaving the social setting, or even people that you know, and just like not liking how you came off, like whether you were just nervous or tired or, you know, whatever it is. Like, I feel like there's sometimes like I'll just leave a social setting and be like, oh, I didn't love the way I came off, or I feel like I was too much or too little, or, you know, whatever it is. So I feel like I've really like toned myself down on thinking that first impressions are always right, because I don't think that they are anymore. But I do still, to my core, believe that gut instincts are almost always right. I don't know if that really answered the question, but I think it's super interesting. So someone asked thoughts on fast fashion and how to shop sustainably when you can't afford ethical retailers. And I thought this was a really interesting question as well, and something that I've really been thinking about. The new closet in my new apartment is half the size of my current one. So I have just been really minimizing what I own and kind of going through what I wear and what I don't, and kind of my personal style. And I think the obvious answer here is, if you can afford to support ethical retailers, that's obviously the best option, but that's not always the case. And I don't think it's fair to put that pressure on yourself to only buy from ethically sourced and 100% recyclable like type retailers, which I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with. And again, if you can do that, you should, but I just don't think that's realistic for everyone. I think fast fashion's really hard. Like, obviously Shein and Amazon are not places you really want to be supporting. So I typically feel better ordering from places like H&M or Express, which honestly are not much better, but they are a little bit better, but not by a ton. And where I've kind of found peace, especially in the last like year or two, is when I can't afford to buy something 100% ethically or sustainably sourced, is buying something that I know I'm gonna wear time and time and time and time again, because it's not being worn twice and thrown out. So like when I first graduated, I bought a pair of black and navy work pants from Express. They were like $100 each. And those pants I have worn at least once a week for the last 2.5 years straight. So even though it wasn't sustainably made, like it was a sustainable item in my closet because I wore it for so long. And I mean, I'm still wearing them. I don't know why I'm speaking in past tense. So I think cutting back on waste is something that I've found peace in. Shopping secondhand when you can, reselling clothes when you can, or donating them, like just making sure you're throwing out as little as possible and avoiding ordering things that are super trendy. I'll normally like keep things in my cart for like a month or two to really think about if I'm gonna wear them. Or for me lately, I've been focusing on buying things that I know I'll wear to the office and outside of the office as well, because that's honestly 90% of my life. Like I don't need 20 going out tops like I did in college. I need like 3, maybe 3. Like that's all I just don't go out as much as I used to. So I'd rather spend my money on really nice, like a really nice blazer I wear every week. You know what I mean? So I don't think that that's going to be an answer that a lot of people are going to love to hear, but that's kind of been my personal stance. Like as I continue to become more financially stable and kind of shift my purchases over time. But my mindset for the current time is just like really cutting back on waste and minimizing what I own so that I'm getting the most wear out of everything. Another question I got a lot was things to do when you're feeling burnt out. And that's something that I feel like I've really been struggling with the last couple of weeks, is just feeling so exhausted and creatively just drained. And something that always helps me, and I hate when people tell me to do this because I'm like, I don't want to go for a walk right now. I want to lay down. But I really, like, it really does make a big difference, like making sure that you're exercising and prioritizing your health. And it doesn't need to be a 60-minute workout class. I think going for a 1-mile walk sometimes is all you need. Taking breaks in the day. I know everybody's work environment's a little bit different. I'm super lucky that like nobody watches over me at work. Like if I want to go on a 30-minute walk, nobody's gonna say anything because I will still get my work done, or I'll stay the extra time that I need to, you know, whatever it is. But I think getting outside, like I've been really trying to look at my phone less, which I've actually not been successful in, but I've made the effort. So that's the first step. Also been trying to cut back on listening to music or podcasts or, you know, whatever, TikToks as I'm like walking to work, and just be more present in the moment, because I feel like that's something that I am really bad at, is like not multitasking or like overloading my brain with 18 different things and just like focusing on one thing, whether that's like walking or grabbing a coffee or, you know, whatever that is. I think just like taking time to get outside, get a coffee, get a water, like just do something for yourself really helps me. I've been rambling for a really long time, but I feel like I didn't actually answer that many questions, but my camera battery is flashing, so that means I have about 60 seconds to wrap it up. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys wanted part 2 to this or want me to answer like a couple more questions in an upcoming vlog, let me know and I can definitely do that. Thank you guys for watching and supporting, submitting questions, everything like that. It really doesn't go unnoticed and I do appreciate it. And yeah, I think that that's everything for this week's video. I will see you guys next week. Bye.